2019 was such a backloaded year for me. I had nothing to play during the first half of the year. Plenty of cool new experiences, but those didn't interest me or I couldn't get around to playing them. But move forward to the latter half of the year and we had a deluge of games that I'm still reeling from. There are so many games that I know I'd love, that I'm sure I'd have things to talk about here. But I can't because every damn studio on the planet wanted to release their games back to back. Luigi's Mansion, Jedi Fallen Order, Ring Fit Adventure, Death Stranding, experiencing Halo properly for the first time. I haven't even had time to devote to Planet Zoo. I don't know if that's a hallmark to the quantity of good games, or just evidence of how poorly I plan out my free time. Or both. Probably both. But regardless, I've been left with a lot of good and a few bad memories for this year in gaming. So today, I want to reminisce about them. Like always, this is not so much a list of quality. We're not giving out Game of the Year awards or anything like that. This is just a bit of story time, looking back on the good and bad times. And yes, there are bad times. And to my overwhelming disappointment, it's the same culprit this year. It breaks my heart to see Blizzard continue to fall so far below the standards they used to pride themselves in. For a company that claims to embody free thinking and communities and all that kind of stuff, for them to turn and take such a backwards approach against the blatant crimes against humanity in Hong Kong, watching their morals continue to rot, more and more good people leave the company, and as a brutal, though comparatively meaningless cherry on top of that pie, an insider leaked that a first-person shooter StarCraft game, something I've dreamed of for literal decades, was being worked on and then was cancelled. It sucks to see something you love let itself go. On the topic of letting themselves go, Pokémon. Pokémon has been doing the same basic thing since its inception, and it's been a while since I felt any real kind of passion towards the series, but this was the year that finally snapped me. Sword and Shield are pathetic games. They are fun games, don't get me wrong, but that's just because they're Pokémon. Skin this experience as any other series and it would be ridiculed then forgotten. The greatest achievements it brings to the table are only achievements in the first place because the Pokémon Company has set the bar so low that it's practically buried in the earth. And I hate that I can't enjoy this anymore. I love Pokémon. I grew up seeing all these creatures with starry eyes. The nostalgia alone should carry this game to greatness. But I can't. The more I learn about how these games are made, how little time is spent on them, how little is invested in them, how a series could somehow evolve less than Madden, a game based around a real-life, unchanging sport, all while Pokémon is the biggest media franchise on the planet. It's disappointing, the bare minimum, it's downright infuriating. Pokémon could be the greatest video game on the planet. The resources are there to make our wildest dreams come true, but they don't do it. Because why make millions defining genres when pooping out annual games makes just as much for a fraction of the investment? Here's the thing about companies. You can't treat them like people. Because as much as you may hate the decisions that the higher-ups make, the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of the people working there have absolutely no say in what goes on. So as much as I hate what Blizzard has become, I do want to say that there are still people there who make cool things. Mansk in StarCraft, Deathwing in Heroes of the Storm, they're both very fun. Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 look great. While my enjoyment of these things has been permanently scarred, I do want to at least acknowledge that there is still some quality over at Blizzard. You know, sometimes a game doesn't have to be this massive 100-hour experience to be fun. Sometimes you just need a sweet and simple gem like Cadence of Hyrule to put a big smile on your face. I don't have much to say here because there's not that much to begin with. It was a quick 3-hour experience from start to finish, but that was 3 hours of constant smiles, stellar music, and some of the best Zelda puns I've ever seen. I mean, come on, Glockenspiel. How can you not love that? I could talk about a lot of different things when discussing Wargroove, The lovable art style, the surprisingly deep lore, the charming music, the wonderful level editor, and so much more. But I don't think any of that matters, because when it comes down to it, the thing I love most about this game, and the thing I think would sell you most on this game, is Caesar. If seeing this inspiring good boy doesn't at least tempt you to try out Wargroove, then I don't know what to tell you. Do you hear that? That's the sound of my brain twisting itself into so many knots that its shape is becoming four-dimensional. And I still can't figure this out. Baba Is You is one of the smartest puzzle games I've ever seen. The sheer creativity it must have taken to come up with this concept alone astounds me. There were games I enjoyed more this year, but the pure novelty of this one easily makes it the game I would recommend you to try the most. There is still one shining beacon of Pokémon that hasn't been tarnished for me, and that is shiny hunting. I am 50 hours into Pokémon Sword and I haven't left Route 1, and I'm having more fun than I'd ever have with the base game. But I don't want to talk about Sword. I want to revisit Let's Go Pikachu. End of last year, I was dozens of hours into Let's Go, with only 2 badges and a pair of shinies at my side, and I was having the time of my life. The relaxation of kicking back and searching for shinies combined with the joy of finding one is a blissful cycle that I haven't found in any other game. Sure, it took over 100 hours and 10 months to beat the game, but that victory meant something to me. And in my efforts to achieve that victory, I had the perfect shiny hunting experience. See, I wanted to form up a fairly balanced team of typings. I had an Arcanine, Golem, Butterfree, Tentacruel, and an Electabuzz. And I felt like a grass Pokemon would round that out nicely. I wanted that last Pokemon to be an Alolan Executor, but that's on Victory Road. So unfortunately I had to, progress through the game to do that. Ugh. Which I wasn't terribly enthused about, but I plowed through the gym leaders as quickly as I possibly could. And as I entered Cinnabar Mansion, with no sort of chain, or charm, or anything going on, a little green Rattata wandered into my view. Bear in mind that this was after dozens and dozens of hours trying to find the other shinies, only for this tiny green bastard to laugh in the face of my efforts. That sheer mix of delight, shock, and sheer exasperation was the thing I'll treasure most from this game. I named him Curveball, pumped him full of candies, he eviscerated my rival's team, and I don't think I would have wanted it any other way. People say it as a meme all the time, but this right here, this is a top percentage Rattata. So Smash Bros. Has been getting some DLC. Obviously I love the game, obviously I was excited for these characters, so we're gonna cut to the chase and do a rapid-fire top 5 Smash DLC characters. Number 5, Joker. An awesome design that wonderfully advertises Persona 5, but it's not the direction I wanted the character to go in, with a slew of nitpicks that sour his design just a little bit. Number 4, Banjo. My favorite addition in terms of who was added to the game, but his playstyle just doesn't gel with me. Number 3, Hero. Definitely my least favorite design of the bunch, the messiest character by far, but I do love randomized chaos, so this character has slowly grown on me. Number 2, Piranha Plant. Concrete proof that Sakurai and his team are some of the best and craziest developers on the planet. And number 1, Terry. Like many, I didn't have a clue who this guy was before he was revealed, but that's okay because he's one of the most satisfying characters in the game to play. And number 0, Sans. I'm only mostly joking here. I played with the costume before playing Banjo with 0 regrets. Were you to check my Steam profile page, you would see the game I have played most, without contest, is Terraria. It's one of my favorite games of all time. A perfect blend of platforming, creativity, and combat that allowed for dozens of playthroughs, all feeling unique and special. But I was finally hitting my limit with the game. Finally felt like I'd seen everything there was to see. Then one day, after 3 weeks of constantly bugging me about it, my little brother convinced me to try out some mods for the game, and... See, here's the thing. I normally don't like mods. It's rare to find ones that live up to the quality of the base game, and when they don't live up to that quality, they stick out like a sore thumb. Taints the purity of the experience for me. But Terraria is one of those games that's been around for so long that the mods which are available start to rival the game itself. Thorium in particular is perfection, to such a degree that I have to keep reminding myself that this is fan-made, not an official expansion. Sure, I'll never be able to go back to vanilla Terraria after this, but I also have access to a weaponized tuba, so I consider that concern irrelevant. When you see a game that's in early access, you don't think much of it, right? This experience is so unfinished that it can't even be considered a beta. Surely that's not worth your time. But on the other hand, this game is called GTFO, so of course I have to at least try it. And in the course of a single play session with a few friends, I had more fun here than most games provide in their entirety. Disregarding the superb sound design and one of the best horror atmospheres I've experienced, this is one of the best team experiences I've played. The surgical precision required to play this game can be brutally punishing at times, but that just makes pulling off those maneuvers that much more satisfying. I am very excited to see where this game goes in the future. There were some trying times for me this year. Some rough days where life got me down, but anytime things got really bad, I could always take a second to look back and smile as I remembered that Baldur's Gate 3 exists. I know I already geeked out about this during the E3 retrospective, and we've learned nothing else about the game since, but even then I cannot stress how excited I am for this game. Divinity Original Sin 2 is perfect, Dungeons & Dragons is perfect. So when you give the rights of the latter to the creators of the former, what else can the result be apart from the greatest game ever made? With the direction the series has been going, I wasn't expecting to truly love another modern Fire Emblem. So imagine my surprise when Three Houses came around and ended up being my favorite of the series. The strategy elements are as good as ever, but there were two factors that pushed it over the edge for me: teaching and time. The best Fire Emblem games always got me invested in their characters, but this takes that to another level by making you the mentor of a group of students. Where once I would simply like the characters of the game, now I felt actively protective of them. Due to my own reclusive nature, Bernadetta was definitely a character I'd relate strongly to, but as her teacher, you better believe I'm pushing her out of her comfort zone and getting her some friends. I made Raphael her best friend, they ended up together, and I felt genuinely proud of making that happen. And I think the reason these friendships and relationships and interactions work so well is simply making time a mechanic of the game. Other games of the series, the 3DS ones in particular, could see characters being mild acquaintances to getting married with kids in the span of a few short missions, which was ridiculous, it didn't feel natural, ripped me right out of the game story. But here, of course your students are growing closer together. They're spending time in classes, living together on campus, embarking on dangerous missions over the course of many months. It makes the world feel so much more believable, even despite how one-dimensional certain characters can seem at times. And the end result gave me one of my favorite casts of characters in video game history. Monster Hunter has always been one of my favorite series. I can dump hundreds of hours into each game and still have just as much fun as when I started. There are so many stories I could tell. Epic moments dueling Glavenus, the siege of Safajiva, nail-biting fights that I survived with the skin of my teeth. Which actually makes it difficult to talk about in a video like this. I have hundreds of hours of good times to look back on. How on earth am I supposed to single that out to one aspect to discuss here? I can't do that. It'd be a disservice. So I'll just say that this game is amazing and Palicos are adorable and leave it at that. 2019 has been the first year in a while that I'm having trouble choosing my personal game of the year. Some days I feel like it's Control, but I haven't had the chance to get very far in that game, so I don't know if that feeling will stick. Other times I look at the perfection of Iceborne. How could something possibly beat that? Then I hear the call of Fire Emblem, and how wonderful those characters were. But I'm not feeling that right now. As I'm looking back at the year and what I want to play right now, I can't resist the call of nostalgic medieval warfare. I was not expecting to love Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition as much as I do. With all the games coming out at once, there was no way I'd devote time to a remaster of a game that I've already played hundreds of hours of in the past. Except this isn't a remaster. This is a full-blown expansion that improves every element of an already near-perfect game while keeping the actual gameplay the same as the classic I grew up with. I already loved the power fantasy of invading China as the Mongol hordes, or defending the Holy Land from Crusades as the Saracens, but now I'm doing so while getting chills from a fully redone, nostalgic soundtrack, playing as entirely new civilizations. I've been playing this game for dozens of hours, and I still stop what I'm doing to watch these buildings get destroyed. Look at these physics! These animations are insane! Sacking Rome has never made me feel so happy, making this a strong contender for, if not my absolute favorite game of the year. Which makes it crazier when you realize that next year is looking even better. Let me know some of your favorite gaming memories of 2019. Share some stories in the comments below. It's been a great and fun, albeit slow to upload year for this channel, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this next year will bring. Here's to the future, everyone. See you next time.